First Steps in the Higher Life. Step 10. From James Allen's book, Out from the Heart. My name is Steve Van Eiderstein. And welcome to the Narrowing Path, Walking the Spiritual Walk. There we are. We've made it to step 10 out of the 10 that James Allen has listed in the book for us. And it's been quite a journey. I hope you all have enjoyed it. I'm excited to go through this one. This is a very powerful last step. This is the last step of the last lesson of the 10, right? James Allen broke it into 3 different lessons. First was discipline of the body. Second was discipline of speech. Third was discipline of inclination. And this third one's had 3 steps. First being unselfish performance of duty. Second is unswerving rectitude. And now 2 days, which is unlimited forgiveness. Sounds like a great one. I've really enjoyed the last 2 steps specifically. Honestly, I enjoy reading these 10 steps overall, but really digging into them and tearing them apart with you all on this podcast has really been something that's realigned me to the direction I want to take. And these last 3 have really been impactful in my life actively today, not just in the past implementations of it, but actively today is this rereading and this rediscovering of these has really resonated with me deeply. So I hope y'all have found the same for you, and you found it beneficial for you and your own spiritual journeys. So I want to thank everyone for the likes, for the subscribes, for the follows, for the shares, the comments, everything. I like all the feedback, regardless of what it is. I appreciate it. And I'm glad this is getting in front of a wide audience now. So, wide for me, I guess. So thank you all so much for the support, and it is very much appreciated. So let's go ahead and do some reading about unlimited forgiveness, which is something that I think we can all agree is needed today. We don't get too much of it talked about anymore. We don't, or it's talked about in ways that aren't truly in alignment to what forgiveness is, I don't believe. So let's have a conversation about unlimited forgiveness. Here we go. This is the 10th step, unlimited forgiveness, in the 5th chapter called First Steps in the Higher Life in James Allen's book, Out from the Heart. And I will be reading from this early edition that I always point out. But you can get this mass market reproduction. Everything's accurate for this step. The 3rd step is the practice of unlimited forgiveness. This consists in overcoming the sense of injury, which springs from vanity, selfishness, and pride, and in exercising disinterested charity and large-heartedness towards all. Spite, retaliation, and revenge are so utterly ignoble and so small and foolish as to be altogether unworthy of being noticed or harbored. No one who fosters such conditions in his heart can lift himself above folly and suffering and guide his life aright. Only by casting them away and ceasing to be moved by them can a man's eyes be opened to the true way in life. Only by developing a forgiving and charitable spirit can he hope to approach and perceive the strength and beauty of a well-ordered life. In the heart of the strongly virtuous man, no feeling of personal injury can arise. He has put away all retaliation. He has no enemies, and if men should constitute themselves as his enemies, he will regard them kindly, understanding their ignorance and making full allowance for it. When this state of heart is arrived at, then is the 3rd step in the discipline of one's self-seeking inclinations accomplished. Then is the 3rd great lesson in virtue and knowledge learned and mastered. There we go. 1 paragraph. But I do believe I could speak on that 1 paragraph for about 5 hours. We could tear that paragraph apart word by word, I believe. This is a principle that we in many ways have lost sight of. This is a step that to be honest with you, I think there's going to be some pushback on this step from the people that see the reels and see the long form content. A lot of people won't like this. They will not agree with this forgiveness concept, at least not immediately. Maybe after some thought or some input or some new information, they might change their minds. But this unlimited forgiveness concept is oftentimes construed as a weakness by many, and that it's something that just puts people in a position to be taken advantage of or anything like that. And people just want to hold on to their opposition to this sense of or to this practice of unlimited forgiveness. So this is a step I've had to put a lot of effort into. Let me tell you, this is something that I have had to intentionally practice, and it was I've changed a lot because of it. It's been something that's been repeatedly life-changing. I can't say it's just been a singular life-changing thing. Every time I find a place that I need to practice this concept of unlimited forgiveness, this principle or step of unlimited forgiveness, it changes my life again. Those old ideas, those old resentments, those old grudges that I've held on to for so very long, to practice forgiveness in those moments and understanding and compassion has changed my life for the better. And many times over has it happened. I didn't realize how chained down I was because of my past resentments and hurts. It was difficult for me to actually apply it because that means I had to let go of my anger and my self-pity. Because you can't be angry, resentful, maybe is a better way to say it, and practice forgiveness. You can't be sitting in the seat of the perpetual victim and practice forgiveness. They don't mesh. And I loved both of those seats. I loved being angry. I loved being in self-pity because it was just, it released me from a sense of responsibility that I had to take accountability for my own life. I liked to be the victim. I liked to be the person that the world was doing wrong, which I most times just made up in my head. But I wanted to grow and I wanted to change, but I didn't realize so much of my growth was locked up in these old resentments, as it was locked up in these old perceptions, these old perspectives, these old beliefs I held. So when I started to actually practice this, the change was incredible. And it turns out this is the only way you get to change, right? Like the truest sense of change when it comes to changing behaviors around our perceptions of other people and being attacked and being victimized, right, is to practice forgiveness. And in that practice of forgiveness, we find out more about ourselves and we grow in knowledge and understanding, compassion for others. So there's so much growth locked away in this one principle, and I'm so grateful for it. This step pretty much was entirely about stepping out of this victim role that I had placed myself in. It was about stepping out of this feeling of being slighted by the world and that the world was unfair to me. I had adopted this identity that I was the victim of so many things, and it was unwarranted, and I was being ridiculed and persecuted, and the world just didn't understand me type of thinking. And it kept me in this horrific misery, but that's just who I was. Like I said, I had created an identity out of this whole victim mentality. And Forgiveness told me I had to let that identity go. Forgiveness told me that I had to change how I engaged in the world, and how I viewed the world. Forgiveness told me I might be the problem at the end of the day. And that was hard for me to stomach. That was hard for me to swallow. So let's go ahead and we'll get into this line by line. And it opens up with really powerful first couple of sentences here. I mean, the third step is the practice of unlimited forgiveness. This consists in overcoming the sense of injury, which springs from vanity, selfishness, and pride, and in exercising disinterested charity and large-heartedness towards all. Okay. Lot in those first two sentences. There's a lot of principles, and there's a lot of practices, or there's a lot of ideas, maybe is a better way to say it, in these first things he leads off with. He starts strong, doesn't he, James Allen? So it's let's just do the first one. Let's start with the description of what we're talking about, that we need to practice unlimited forgiveness with, or how that looks. And he says it's the overcoming. So the sense of injury. Overcoming the sense of injury. Now, James Allen was very particular about the words he used. James Allen was intentional about everything that he wrote. It had a purpose. It was not to be conflated. It was not to be misunderstood or misinterpreted. He wrote it exactly how he wrote it, because that is exactly what he meant. And he said, overcoming the sense of injury. Now, he doesn't say overcoming the injury. He says the sense of injury. The perceived injury is what he's talking about. So instantly, he's correcting perspective right there. The perceived injustice, the perceived attack, right? Forgiveness is overcoming what we have perceived to be an attack about us, that is because of us, that is everything to do with us, right? These are things that affect our ego, our sense of self. These are things that affect the way we're perceived in the world, right? This is something that we take these things personally, right? The sense of injury, we take it personally. But when someone else would have been like, what this means is someone can say the same thing to two different people. One person will take it personally, one person won't, right? So that means that there's a set of beliefs and a set of understandings, and the one that took it personally, that the one that did not take it personally does not have, right? Because words in that way can only hurt you if you let them in, right? If you let them touch in something in you, if you let them engage with an old hurt. Excuse the pause there. I was trying to word that correctly. And so that's what it means to be taking it personally. That's what it means to say, hey, this is really upsetting me. I took offense to this. I took it personally. It's hurt my feelings, right? And this can be a lot of things and that fall into this category. But a lot of times, especially today, we talk about words a lot. We talk about just the way people speak, and we take things personally so easily. And some people honestly wait to be offended. Like I've said before, some people intentionally do this. They take things personally on purpose to justify their victimhood position. They might do it to dismiss an argument because it personally offends them, right? And discount or trying to distract or detract from the actual conversation that's happening. So those are perceived hurts. Those are things that because of the way we've interpreted them, we've taken on a sense of injury from them, right? That it's about me, that it's personally about me. Now, and these moments we take things personally usually come from, Alan says, springs from the following: vanity, selfishness, and pride. Those three things: vanity, selfishness, and pride. Now, those are some pretty significant character defects, some significant sin if you're of a Christian persuasion, right? Some significant problems that we carry with us. And these are all things that are about how we look to others, how we perceive ourselves, or things that we might want, or things that we believe, right? So these perceived hurts, when we get this sense of injury, it crosses one of our unhealthy beliefs or unhealthy behaviors, right? Or unhealthy characteristics, maybe is a better way to say it. Because if it didn't, it wouldn't seem to hurt us in that way, right? This is this is the same principle. There's not principle, but same understanding that like an insult only works if it's applicable to you, right? If an insult only works if it enters into you, and it touches an insecurity that you have or a fear that you have, because if it doesn't elicit a reaction because of your own personal beliefs about yourself, then it falls short, it falls flat, it has no impact, right? So these perceived injuries that we get from the words other people say really are telling about us. And I know this will not be a necessarily well-received statement, but this also extends to physical harm as well. I'm not going to sit here and list out the ways, but pretty much all physical harm falls into this category, because even though it's something that's been done to you, even though it's something that has had an effect on your personal life, right? It's important to not take it personally. I know that sounds like I'm splitting hairs there, but it might affect you, but it is not about you, right? When people decide to take actions that will harm you in whatever form that is, whether it be psychological, emotional, or physical, or spiritual, whatever it is, that they're trying to attack you, it's a decision that they made. Now, it might have centered around you. It might have been their justification of it because of something you might have done in the past. Like, there might have been a lot of you involved in their decision, but the reality of it is always their decision, right? They decided to take an action. They are fully responsible for that. So it might have affected you personally. You might have been victimized, but it is not actually about you with their decision. It's something we can't take personally. And when I was reading this, we were, or I have read previously the Four Agreements, and I have really enjoyed that book. I don't know if you've read it, by Don Miguel Ruiz, I believe it is. And and it's about 4 principles you can practice in your life. Maybe I'll do that on this channel at some point, because it was very helpful to me. But it was one of his rules is don't take anything personally, right? Which is what James Allen's leading off with here. He expands a little bit more on it, but that book really helped me understand that every decision that someone makes, whether it's an action they take, a word they say, a thought they think, right, that is about them. And it has nothing to do with me, right? Now I might have said things that could have been provocatory, or I could have said things that I didn't know were upsetting to them. They might have taken something personally that I didn't mean to be attacking, right? Like they could perceive a whole lot of things, but then they take the full responsibility of the decision of what they're doing at that point. And this practice of not taking something personally, regardless of what it is, helps you not get stuck in the self-pity, helps you not just stay in this victim role of, hey, this is something, I don't know what I did to deserve it, or why are they attacking me? What's wrong with me? All of those questions are just a short slide into self-pity. They're a short thought away from this victim stance that we can so easily meld ourselves into. So when you practice this, and what James Allen is leading with here is this overcoming a sense of injury, which springs from the vanity, selfishness, and pride, right? Because even if it's an unwarranted attack that causes serious physical, psychological, emotional, mental, whatever, spiritual harm to you, right? It is, it affects your pride, right? Because you're saying, what did I do to deserve this? Why is the world picking on me? Whatever it might be, right? Why? All those why questions that most of the time never get answered. That is something we can work around today. That is something we do not have to get stuck in, even though we would like the answers, even though we would, we call it closure. But closure truly doesn't come from somebody else. It comes from our understanding that when they made the decision to do what they did, it was for their own reasons, their own motivations, and their own fears and insecurities, or drives, maybe is a better way to say it, their own drives. And unfortunately, we've become the recipient of those sometimes. But that ability to not take it personally gives us a lot of power back. So I know what I was just talking about might be difficult to hear, and there might be some adamant objection to it. I understand that, but I do believe it. It's freed me from many things. It's freed me from a very large number of resentments and self-pities that I held. I just realizing it was never actually about me, even though it affected me. So, just keep that in mind. Open-mindedness is going to go a long way on this one. And instead of taking things personally because they've offended our vanity, or we didn't get what we wanted, or our pride, our beliefs about ourselves were slighted or overstepped, we're supposed to exercise disinterested charity and large-heartedness toward all. So we're supposed to be loving towards these people instead. We're supposed to be loving toward them. We're supposed to exercise disinterested charity, meaning a state of compassion and understanding to all those who might try to offend, to all those who might try to impact us, right? So instead of this, feeling this hurt and then getting resentful and letting that control us, we're supposed to practice disinterested charity, as in a pan application, a complete application, disinterested, not like, oh, a little over here and a little over here, but a disinterested charity. Everybody gets it. Every single person, every single thing, every single institution, every single concept, right, gets disinterested charity and large-heartedness. So we're in this purification process, remember, of our hearts, and we're supposed to be practicing this loving perspective, right? And we're supposed to be loving all of those we come across. And this is one of the biggest practices of it, is this unlimited forgiveness. And we're supposed to be compassionate and empathetic. And we're supposed to, like I said, practice this. It says that the towards all is a very important part of this. It's not everybody but my dad. It's not everybody but my mom. It's not everybody but the person who was inappropriate with me. It's not everybody but this one person. It's not everybody but God. It is towards all. All people, all things, all institutions, all concepts, everything, all principles. This is a place of genuine humility when we can actually do that. Now, I do believe humility is a side effect of living correctly. It's a side effect of practicing other principles and understanding right-sizedness. And when you realize that there's nothing you should be taking personally, and it's never truly about you, results in a humble perspective and a humble understanding. So we need to practice this towards everyone. Absolutely everyone. And everyone we don't practice it towards will hold power over us. They will hold the ability to throw us into self-pity or to throw us into anger and rage, right? Now, this is a place a lot of people like. I used to enjoy my character defects like resentments and self-pities. I used to love to collect them, the reasons to justify my bad behavior. Right? It's hard for people to let this go or practice this principle of unlimited forgiveness because it, like I said previously, it forces them to let these things go. It forces you to get out of the victim role. And I didn't like to do that. So I wanted to pick and choose who I would be forgiving with whenever I thought it was appropriate to forgive somebody because the resentment didn't serve me like I wanted it to serve me, or that person was better off as a friend than someone I hated, right? I practiced forgiveness. But when it was something that I felt served me and justified my anger and frustrations, right? Then suddenly, I'm going to hold on to that one. I'm not going to practice forgiveness with this person. They don't deserve forgiveness, was what I would say to myself. But for those familiar with 12-step work and has done a 4th step in the original Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it has a prayer for saying that this was a sick individual and we might not have liked the way they were spiritually sick, but sick nonetheless. And how can I help them? That's the same practice that we're talking about here. That is the same correct perspective that James Allen is getting at here, is this unlimited forgiveness. Like, this is a human being that's fallible, that has problems, and they are doing things because they don't know they don't have to do that. They feel like that's the only way they can survive, right? It's not about me. It's just how they are. That's how they were raised. That's how they fought through their world, whether we like it or not. What can I do for the man who's still sick? Right? How can I help them? And now this is this shift from being resentful or being self-pitying or being holding on to that grudge or whatever it might be, however you want to characterize it, is it doesn't just come naturally. It has to be done intentionally. A lot of people are like, I'm waiting for this to go away. It doesn't just go away. You have to practice this principle before you feel it, right? You intentionally take the position that this might be a sick person that you're dealing with. You take the position of love and compassion and charity towards the individual, regardless of what happens, right? Even though you might not feel it in that moment, and you might want to just dive into that feeling and that sense of or whatever it gives at you, but forgiveness, this unlimited forgiveness, is intentionally taking that and setting it to the side and saying, I will view this person with love, charity, compassion, empathy, understanding. It takes intentional work to do this. And eventually it becomes second nature. Eventually, it becomes something you do with minimal effort, or do with no effort. It's just you. It's a state of mind you can maintain, at least for the most part. None of us are perfect, but it's very difficult because we want to feel. We don't want to feel the anger or the hurt, and then we'll practice it. But that's not how it goes. We have to practice this first, and then the anger and the resentment and the pain and the injury will dissipate. As uncomfortable as that is, that's the order of operations. And now James Allen goes on to say, spite, retaliation, and revenge are so utterly ignoble and so small and foolish as to be altogether unworthy of being noticed and harbored. Now, this is new information for a lot of people. It was new information for me when I read it, right? I thought this was the most important thing in my life. Like, who I needed to keep that book or that checklist of everyone who's done me wrong and why they've done me wrong and why I can justify my bad behavior, why I can justify doing all the things I thought I needed to do to just get through a day, right? And James Allen is saying we have the wrong value placed on them. The reality of it is the spite, the retaliation, and revenge are so insignificant and it's worth so little of your time, it's not even worthy of being noticed. It's not worth holding on to them and keeping them in your soul, in your heart, right? Why would you continue to hold on to this hurt? The thing is, though, this goes directly against what a lot of societies are teaching people today. They're just like, oh, if you have been slighted, hold on to that pain and just use it to fight in whatever institution or idea or person that you believe is responsible for it, right? People are told to foster their resentments today, almost to foster their misery or their discouragement with the world or their nihilistic perspective on the world. They're encouraged to just hold on to that. And James Allen is saying in this, like, that is incorrect. That is wrong. We should not be doing that. Under any condition, we should not be doing that. We need to be letting it go. We need to treat it as something that is so small and insignificant, it barely hits our radar and is instantly gone. And if it sticks around, we need to do some work on it. We need to take a look at what it is, right? But today, people get attention as to their resentment, as to their sense of being a victim, right? People get online and they'll post it and they'll get these encouraging, these people to co-sign it and to encourage their behaviors, right? To say they're justified in what they're doing and they deserve to retaliate. They deserve to harm somebody else. They deserve to do these things. And it's never warranted. It is never justified. It is never okay to do that. We get this desire to get back at people. And when we feel like we've been honestly wronged and we have a justified resentment is what we'll call it, though no resentment is truly justified, it gives us this false sense of power and this false sense of superiority. And people love that. I loved it. I felt powerless in my life. So when I got given the opportunity to dig my nails into a resentment and feel like I was justified in this anger was a good anger that made me feel powerful and made me feel better than them because I could judge them for the wrong they did to me. And I felt way up here instead of way down here, right? My insecurities just drank in that anger. And let me tell you, anger can be just as or even more so intoxicating than any drug or alcohol. Anger can make people believe a lot of bad ideas. It can allow people to feel like they are justified for taking really horrible action towards other human beings. Anger is a poison that'll just rot in your soul when you hold on to it. Anger should never be more than fleeting. Because if it's more than fleeting, you're holding on to it because it's doing something for you. It's letting you feel self-pity, or it's letting you feel justified anger and rage. And neither of those are good, because you're just looking for a feeling of power and a sense of control. Or at least that was my story. I should keep that on the eye. But that's why I used it. That's why I do not hold it. And when it flares up, I take it very seriously. I address it when it comes up, because it doesn't serve anyone well. Alan is telling us that it's completely unworthy of our time, our attention, and our energy, and that has been my direct experience. None of these grudges, resentments, justified harms, I thought were justified harms, was worth my time. All it did was control me. And we don't like this because we would rather stay in resentment and get that emotional reward from it. But he is right. The more we focus on it, the more anger we hold over it, the more power we give it. The more we are spiteful or we want revenge, the more we obsess about it. The more we feel the severity of an injustice, the more the obsession will grow. And we'll keep looking for clues. We'll keep looking for all of these flags that it was really what we thought it was, or it might have even been worse than we initially realized. And we'll just hold that, and then we'll keep gathering. We'll build a case against somebody or something or some situation, right? This confirmation bias is just in full effect, and we're just going with it. And this obsession is growing and growing and growing. And then that obsession allows us to justify these bad behaviors. It becomes such a limiting thing. It becomes a lens we view the world through. It becomes something that colors every frame of our life, because we've given it time, energy, and attention when it didn't need to be. And we've let that resentment dictate so much in our life. And he says here, no one who fosters such conditions in his heart can lift himself above folly and suffering and guide his life aright. It takes full control of you. It's steering the ship. You lose yourself in these things. And the fostering of a resentment and the unwillingness to practice forgiveness is giving our power away to somebody else, to something else, to some situation that happened in the past. We're letting a past event still dictate our behavior and our emotional stability in a moment, right? It has control over us, even though we're trying to fight back against the control. We're trying to find justice through our own rage and self-pity. But the reality of it is, we're giving it more and more of our spirit, more and more of us we're giving over to it. And these things hold us down. These things, these resentments and these angers and these perceived slights are the bondage of self that so many 12-step programs talk about, so many self-help programs talk about. Like we build our own cages that we're living in with these things. When we limit our own growth, we limit our own lives with these things, with these old perspectives, with these old beliefs, with these fostered resentments. We make decisions based on them, right? We might move because of them. We might commit violence because of them, and sacrifice ourselves and our lives, and the have a horrific impact on those who love us because of them. and we think we're doing the right thing. We've gotten it so twisted around. And he says at the end of that line that we can never guide his life aright. Because we don't see the world properly. We don't see the world through an unemotional view. And it isn't saying emotions are bad, but you shouldn't feed them when there's damaging. You shouldn't use the emotion to guide your steps, because it just will lead you into this path of suffering and ill-informed decisions. That was my direct experience. I was very emotion-driven before I got into recovery, before I started this spiritual journey. It was very difficult for me to make objective, realistic decisions that were based in logic and reason. I couldn't see the reality of things. I couldn't see the truth in things, which was causing me to suffer. These things cause you misery. We're intentionally and knowingly engaging in suffering and misery when we're holding on to these things. When we aren't practicing forgiveness and we're letting these things just chew through us and become this mental obsession, we're creating our own suffering. We're makers of our own misery then. We could let it go and not take it personally. And that doesn't mean you don't take appropriate action, but take appropriate action should one be warranted. Not this emotional overreaction that causes more harm. That is good for nobody. We'll suffer because we want to be vindicated or to change the past. And neither of those can change, but you have the power to change your perspective. And that's such a huge thing. That's where the power actually lies. To be able to say, I won't take this personally anymore. It was difficult for me. So let's go into the how James Allen says we need to be. So only by casting them away and ceasing to be moved by them, these are the perceived slights, can a man, the resentments and all the other stuff we've been talking, all those names I've used for it, right? Only by casting them away and ceasing to be moved by them can a man's eyes be opened to the true way in life. Only by developing a forgiving and charitable spirit can he hope to approach and perceive the strength and beauty of a well-ordered life. So, right there, if you want to seek truth, if you want to walk this path of truth and honesty and to make spiritual growth and a pursuit of the God of your understanding, regardless of what that is, your goal, you have to cast away these perceived injustices. You have to cast away these resentments. You have to let these things go. And don't let them affect your peace anymore. Right? People say we give away our peace. I believe that by someone's offhand remark. They've gone about their business, their life. They don't even know they're living rent-free in my head, as they say. So casting them away and ceasing to be moved by them. Don't let them drive your actions anymore. Take actions that are the right, pure, and true actions, not the ones that you think are justified because of what you've been through. What is right will always be right. Sometimes we just don't like it, and that's okay. And I also like how James Allen stated it, the true way in life, right? he didn't say the true way of life. It came to eyes can be opened to the true way in life, right? So it's I know it might sound very similar, but to me it just resonated differently because there is a right way to be in life. There's a path of truth in life that is where we need to reside, which is the path we need to take. Because life will always be life, right? This world will always be this world. It will have its ups, it will have its downs, it will have its difficulties, it will have its pleasures, and it will have its good times. It will have its peace, it'll have its war. The world will always be the world. The true way in this world comes from letting the resentments go, comes from letting these perceived slights go. This sense of injury is the exact wording he used. Go. Then you're no longer moved by them. Then you can walk this true way in life instead of just being reactive to it, instead of being dictated by the ghosts of your past. There is a path of righteousness that we get to follow today, should we so choose. And it comes with practicing unlimited forgiveness. And then he says, he goes into this, by developing a forgiving and charitable spirit, we can hope to approach and perceive the strength and beauty of a well-ordered life. Don't we all want a well-ordered life? I mean, maybe that's presumptuous of me, but I wanted a well-ordered life. I didn't know I wanted it for a very long time. But isn't that what we're striving for at the end of the day? A manageable life. A life where we find peace, a life where we find consistency and reliability, a life where there's a sense of safety and security within it, right? Not this emotional upheaval that's constantly happening, right? And when we have this well-ordered life, because we've gotten rid of all these things we've given power over to, guess what? We find this sense of strength. We can see the beauty in the world instead of resenting it. We can walk with our heads up high without guilt and shame, right? Because we've let these old resentments go. We've let these old ideas and perspectives go. These old injuries that we sensed or perceived go. And then we get to see this well-ordered life. We understand what we value. We understand the importance of things. We understand how we need to be and conduct ourselves, at least a general idea that we get to refine and work towards, and we get to strengthen a solid foundation of a loving heart then, not one tainted with resentment and hate. Isn't that where we want to be? We need to be honest with ourselves. Don't we want to be free of it? Don't we want to be loving? Some of us might realize we enjoy it too much. It does too much for us. We're not ready to let it go. I understand that. But I hope, for your own sake of freedom, that you give yourself the opportunity to find peace. It's changed my life. So he then goes on. Like I said, this is going to be a long one, guys. I apologize. James Allen then leads into, in the heart of the strongly virtuous man, no feelings of personal injury can arise. Now, remember what this whole chapter, well, really what this whole book's about is the purification of the heart. The book's called Out from the Heart, right? So the purification of the heart, the loving intention of the heart, which then drives the mind, which then the mind drives the body, right? So we're trying to go back to the source and purify the heart through the way we behave, and then to change our thinking so we can have a permanent change in perspective, right? So the virtuous heart, the one that's taken all 10 of these steps that we've gone over, including this one, and is taken them into himself and is practicing them on a daily basis, results in a person that no feeling of personal injury can arise. What a freedom that is. What a beautiful sense of freedom that is. That no sense of personal injury can arise. Never taking anything personally. Never getting our feelings hurt from this again. Or our ego bruised or our pride stepped on. What a beautiful thing that is. What a beautiful potential that would be to entertain. To become such a virtuous person, that to have such a right understanding that we give none of our power away to somebody else again. That we give none of our peace of mind and our serenity to someone else to give back to us. That we just own it and we hold it for our own. It's an incredible feeling when I can be right there, where nothing bothers me, where people I know are just being people. When I have a right understanding and a right perspective, I do not get riled up. And he chose an important word in that statement, right? In the heart of the strongly virtuous man, no feelings of personal injury can arise. It does not say it won't, or it shouldn't, or that I'll be able to handle it appropriately when it arises. It says no personal injury can arise. That sounds idealistic, I know, but I do believe it's possible. I believe I get moments of it, to be honest with you. I believe I get opportunities to embrace that as I remain steadfast in my principles and my understanding and my perspectives, right? It comes from a true understanding of perspective and a practice of this unlimited forgiveness, having that charitable understanding that what is another individual is doing is not about me. It is always about them. And when I can hold on to that, nothing can cause me a personal injury. Nothing can cause me resentment. Nothing can cause me to take things personally because I have correct perspective. It's impossible for it to. That's such a powerful word that he used. He didn't say shouldn't. He said no feelings of personal injury can arise. That is such a true sense of freedom. Not worrying about who's going to upset you or who's going to step on your toes today or who's going to insult you or come after you or try to degrade or belittle you. You can walk through life confidently. And that is an amazing thing. And then he goes on to say he has put away all his retaliation. So there's no urge to strike back. And has no enemies. What a statement. He has no enemies. So he doesn't want to strike back at anybody, and he has no enemies. He has no hatred in his heart for anybody. He has nobody that he wants to target, right? And if men should continue themselves if men should constitute themselves, so they claim that they are the virtuous man's enemy, he will regard them kindly, understanding their ignorance and making full allowance for it. Wow. So he hates nobody. He doesn't want to retaliate. He doesn't want to target somebody because they've wronged him or slighted him. And if somebody views him as such, he allows them to. Right? What a beautiful thing it is to claim to have no enemies and to allow other people to have their belief of you being theirs. And not feeling like you have to correct them and not feeling like it's your responsibility to go and change their mind about it, because you're giving away your power then. You're giving away your peace of mind to somebody that most of the times doesn't want to give it back to you. They're holding it over your head. They're holding your serenity hostage because of it, right? the freedom that comes with that, to not focus on it, to not daydream about it, to not obsess about it, to not hunger for the anger, the power, that rush that it can give you, is it's life-changing. It's absolutely life-changing, because I don't know about you, but I know myself, I would just daydream of my resentments. I would start to really overthink all of this stuff, and I would get just lost in the way it would make me feel. I would just magnify my hurt so I could magnify my anger and magnify my justification of all of my terrible behavior, and just feel this false sense of power and control that the anger would give me. And I wasted so much time on that. I lost so much of me in those moments. So to be free of that by having this right perspective, by having this sense of charity and love and forgiveness towards others, and practicing this big-heartedness or open-heartedness, right? Large-heartedness, I think, is what he called it, actually. It's a beautiful thing. It's something I didn't know I could do. The virtuous man doesn't do this. He doesn't take the slight personally. He does not file it, categorize it. He just lets it go. Goes right on by. Gives it no power, gives it no thought, no time, no attention, gives it zero energy to it. And then, he takes this. So, and I think it's important that he actually put this in there. It's not just that he doesn't take it personally. He actually goes so far to say he gives an understanding that the individual or the organization that is referring to him as an enemy actually has a wrong understanding of things, has ignorance about the true orientation and perspective on life, has they actually must be suffering for them to claim this. That perspective stretches into this beautiful thing where he allows someone to be exactly who they are, and actually has some practice of pity for them, to say that is a painful place to be. They are causing themselves personal injury. They're stopping their own personal growth because of this. And I do want to make sure I say this isn't from some spiritual hilltop of self-righteousness or spiritual self-righteousness, right? And judgment. It's a true practice of compassion and charity and understanding. It's not the virtuous man saying, I'm better than the other. It's the virtuous man saying, I hope they find peace. I hope that they let go of this suffering from this idea that they have. Because all it is pain, and it will guide them to behave and act in ways that are really, truly harmful. So it's not this, aha, I'm better than them. I'm up here, they're down here, right? It's this, I see them. I understand where they are. I understand them. I understand that there's some piece of this that they're missing. And I hope they figure it out. Because the virtuous man has found freedom from all of that. The virtuous man, through an act of love and a loving heart, would want that freedom for them as well. And that's a heck of a thing. So he also just talks about how he allows them to have it too. He gives them the space. He doesn't go preach to them, condemn them. He doesn't say they need to change the way they are. He allows for it. And should, maybe given the opportunity, if invited to do so, he would share such information. But not injecting his own will into this. He allows for it. He allows people to have their journey, which many have allowed me to have mine. Pretty amazing thing here. So he finishes up the reading with, when this state of heart, remember, heart, we're talking about purifying the heart, is arrived at, then is the third step in the discipline of one's self-seeking inclinations accomplished. The third great lesson in virtue and knowledge learned. So there we go. It brings us to the end of this third lesson. So that includes the last step right there. And this is the last step in the lesson. So of the last lesson, this is the last one. So it's this is the last lesson about changing our intention with our behaviors, right? Like very specific principled practice we need to do. So the first 7 were about stopping certain behaviors that we currently probably have, and he gives us suggestions on what to do. And then this is the last 3 were inclinations, how we're inclined to behave. So the again, unselfish performance of duty, unswerving rectitude, and then the unlimited forgiveness. And we need to practice these things towards everybody, even those who would call us enemy. Pretty amazing stuff. So, but that's it. That's all 10. So just to recap all 10 of the steps that James Allen gave us as first steps in the higher life. And remember, he said this is the first steps, right? So this is just to get us started. The first lesson was 2 steps long, and it was discipline of the body. It was about indolence and self-indulgence. The second lesson, which had 5 steps involved with it, was about discipline of speech, which he talked about slander, gossip and idle conversation, abusive and unkind speech, levity and irreverent speech, and then captiousness or fault-finding speech. And then the third lesson, which we just finished up with, unlimited forgiveness, was about discipline of inclination and included unselfish performance of duty, unswerving rectitude, and unlimited forgiveness. Each one of these has their own episode on this podcast, and I encourage you, if you missed any, go check them out. James Allen's a fantastic philosopher, writer, and really is giving us some definitive ways to help grow ourselves spiritually, which I'm eternally grateful for. So I hope you found these 10 steps beneficial. I know I have, going through them with y'all. So thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I will do one more episode on this series, because there's 2 paragraphs that James Allen ends these 10 with that I wanted to do an episode on. It's just kind of a summation of some encouragement and direction that James Allen gives us, and some more rewards of living this way that'll come if you just maintain your intention to practice a spiritual way of living. So there will be one more episode on this, just to wrap this whole thing up with a conclusion, and I'm looking forward to it. So I hope y'all have enjoyed this as much as me. Please like, subscribe, follow, share, comment, all of the good stuff. I do appreciate it, and thank you for the support. So next week, we'll maybe even talk about a little bit of what we're going to be doing next too. So thank y'all so much, and until next time, thanks.